Welcome to a Minesoft video which will outline the features and functionality of our new product Minesoft Chemical Explorer, which can be accessed having logged into PatBase through the search menu by clicking on Chemical Explorer. A new window opens where there are a number of ways in which a user can enter a query within the Chemical Explorer. Let's go through them. Firstly, the Lookup Compounds feature enables you to type in a name of a compound that you are interested in. Let's take the example of simvastatin, where, as you can see, as I type, the list of names refreshes, identifying compounds that are similar to what you've typed in. Having identified the correct entry and clicking on it, the chemical structure of the compound of interest is identified and is populated in our structure editor window here on the left hand side of the page. Once your structure has been loaded in the structure editor, you then have the option of utilizing the different toolbars here to actually edit the structure of interest. For example, you could quite simply add additional atoms to the structure itself to interrogate the database further. Alternatively, if I delete that structure, you can use the features and functionality of the editor here to actually enter in or compile your chemical structure of interest. There are three toolbars. The left-hand toolbar details out the bonds, the different ring structures, etc. The right-hand toolbar details out the different elements. The dots at the end of the page there opens a full periodic table for you to select. And the top toolbar enables you to clear up, to remove, to undo any previously entered queries. So let's take an example of a simple benzimidazole. If I take a benzene ring, add a couple of bonds, change the actual number of double bonds here within my ring structure. Oops. Okay, I've compiled there a simple benzimidazole compound which I can, or as you can see, I can easily draw within the editor functionality and then can use to query our database. One thing to point out is the little information card functionality here in the top menu, which is accessible here through the eye or through the tools menu under information card. By clicking on the information card, your compound is identified, is named, and then the actual molecular weight, the number of proton donors, etc., the systematic name, the smiles, etc., are identified and actually provides you a lot of very useful information. So let's go back. The final way of entering a chemical query into Chemical Explorer is to use the import options. So let me just clear my structure for a second. Under the Tools menu, there are two ways in which you can import a chemical query into Chemical Explorer. You can import either a mol file. Let's take an example. Firstly, identify your mol file. Load the file to your computer and upload the mol into Chemical Explorer. Alternatively, utilizing the Tools menu again, you can import a smile string let me take an example. And import that string into Chemical Explorer by clicking the Upload Smile. Again, the smile is converted into the chemical structure and is populated in your structure editor window. Once you have entered your chemical structure query, you have the ability to select one of 3 search types. Firstly, we have an identity search, which allows you to identify chemicals that are identical to the query you have put into the window. There are 3 further options to allow you to choose the degree of identity, from narrow, being the most specific search, returning chemical compounds with the same distribution of electrons, isotopes, stereochemistry, etc. Broad, which is the least specific search and returns chemical structures independent of the distribution of electrons, isotopes, stereochemistry. And finally, a tautomer search, which returns chemical structures that are tautomers of the specific chemical structure. The second search type is the similarity search. This allows you to identify chemicals that are similar to the chemical query. We have used the Tanimoto equation and have identified a number of predefined thresholds from 85% through to 100%, where 100% effectively acts as an exact chemical structure search. The final search type is the substructure search. This allows you to identify chemicals that contain a substructure which is the partial structure you have drawn. I.e., let's take the example here of the benzimidazole. The substructure search will allow you to identify chemical compounds in which your substructure, the benzimidazole that you've drawn here, is found within. 2 options or further options exist within the substructure search type, and that is where you can select to return chemicals based on their resonance or based on their tautomeric form. For all 3 search types, you have a number of further options to return structures that are found within the claims or within the full text of the patent document, to specify the country of interest from all countries down to a specific country like the US, for example. And finally, an option to specify the number of structures to return from 50 through to 500 structures. Once you are happy with your chemical query and with the options selected, you can then hit the search button to run your search and identify relevant chemical structures within our database. Let's take my example here of my benzimidazole compound, and I'm going to run a substructure search specifically within the claims of all countries and return up to 50 structures. Let's hit search. You can see instantaneously the chemical structure hits are returned, where on the left hand side of the page you identify the chemical structure that has been hit upon. In the middle we have the details of the structure itself, including the names, the molecular weight, the molecular formula, the number of instances or number of publications and found within PatBase, and links through to a number of external resources to give you more information on that chemical compound. As I scroll down, you can see a number of additional chemical structures that have been hit upon with the similar information. If you want to select just a single structure, you can quite easily do that by clicking the View Results in PatBase and go and explore those further. if you want to select multiple structures, you can do that by using the checkboxes or the select all function, which as you can see has now selected all my checkboxes. And to review those, you hit the View Selected in PatBase button, which will take those compounds back into PatBase. Let me clear all for a second because I want to show you what you retrieve within PatBase. If I look at a single compound, for example, and I hit the View Results in PatBase, on the left side here, you can see my PatBase page was refreshing there, and within my search history, we clearly see that we've run a Chemical Explorer search on the compound that was the first compound in our list, and we've done that within the claims. Let me go back to Chemical Explorer and show you what happens if you select multiple structures. Let's just take the first two. If I hit those and then click View Selected in PatBase, again, PatBase refreshes, and you can see here in Search Strategy 3 that it's identified more than one structure, and hence we've said selected structures within the claims from a Chemical Explorer search, and again has identified just a single family. I can use the View or the Browse mode to actually then go and identify the publications within the family in which our chemical compound of interest is identified. Let's just take the View mode here. When viewing the patent families within PatBase, the same information as you would normally see within PatBase is shown, but in addition, within our family table, a new link appears. This link identifies those publications within the family in which your chemical structure hits of interest are identified. You can see that we've got hits here against the PCT, the Japanese members of the family, and down the bottom, the US members as well. If I take an example of the US grant here, and I click on the link, a new window opens which launches our text mine technology. In the left-hand side then, the two compounds of interest that match those selected structures that we identified and searched in Chemical Explorer are selected and are displayed on the right-hand side here within the claims of the document and are highlighted clearly in green. So you can see here, if I scroll up, within claim 34, there are two compounds that contain our substructure of the benzimidazole. If I mouse over on the left-hand side here in the menu, first of all, you get further information telling you the SMILE string, the number of instances of that chemical compound within the document, and the variations also of the chemical compound that are picked up and are captured under the same entry. In the right-hand side of the menu here, you have the ability, if there are multiple instances of your chemical compound in the document, to go through those using the up and the down arrow here. So if I click through, I go through the second instance, the third instance, the fourth, etc. Another nice feature within TextMine is the ability, once you identify a chemical structure or chemical compound of interest, is to click on the name within the full text and open up a pop-up window to identify the structure of that compound, the name, and there are also links out to, again, additional external resources to give you more information on the compound itself. Finally, if you would like to see all the chemical entities that have been indexed in this particular publication, in this case the US grant within that family, the little exclamation mark here allows you to remove the filter which was applied to the compounds of interest that you selected for Chemical Explorer. So if I remove that by clicking on the filter itself, you can see that all the other instances of the chemicals that have been identified in this particular US grant are identified. And you can scroll down through those, select those of interest, and these will then be highlighted in the text on the right-hand side of the page. Okay, if I go back to Chemical Explorer, I want to point out one last thing. If you'd like more information about Chemical Explorer, if you go to the Help tab within Chemical Explorer and click on Help, we have a full manual available in a PDF which outlines all the features and functionality that I've explained today and is printable as well. Finally, one thing to note is that our new product, Minesoft Chemical Explorer, is not part of the standard PAP-based subscription and is a separate product that seamlessly links to PAP-base. I hope that this video has been useful today, and as always, if you have any questions or feedback, please contact us at support@minesoft.com. Thank you.